Let's start off with some interesting news that came through from East Africa. We know that Tanzania has banned sugar exports because of the drought. We know that it's creating quite a bit of an inflation issue within that region. And here we are also sitting with quite a bit of opportunity on our hands. Tell us about the situation right now as it stands in Africa and whether it's net positive or whether the likes of droughts could actually create more of an issue going forward.
I mean, at the moment, obviously, drought will be an issue, but at the moment for us, it's actually very positive. We're seeing lots of investment in Africa, in the sugar industry. We've just funded quite a couple of $1 million into the southern African countries. So we think, there is still a big demand, both locally and offshore. But obviously, if there's drought, there would be an issue.
Let's also touch on the fact that Standard Bank has actually been quite integral in approving lots of finance when it comes to producing sugar on the African continent. Let's take a look at Zambia and Nigeria as two prime examples and what your experiences have been there and whether you are seeing the returns on your investment.
Yes, in Zambia we've funded Ilovo into a very big sugar project there. And I think it's a project that in the beginning had a couple of issues, but lately is performing very nicely, and we're very happy with the investment there. In Nigeria, which imports most of its sugar, we actually funded a sugar plant, but domestic consumption is so high. We're also very, very happy with the investment we've made there.
So no exporting out of Nigeria as yet, I would assume. Let's touch on the regions.
No.
Let's touch on the regions that Africa actually competes with, the likes of Brazil. Let's compare the two economies. And at this stage, we know that Africa is sitting with a lot of arable land, which is not being used. So there is still a lot of potential in sight. Is it all about financing? Does it come down to that?
I mean, it comes to the fact that there's so many people in the world at the moment, sugar consumption, and so agri-consumption all over the world, will just go up. And as you've said correctly, a lot of the world's arable land, to be precise, 60% of what's still available is in Africa. So for Africa, this is a very positive story.
Let's also touch on the actual climate. We know that certain droughts are affecting the production of sugar, and we also know that sugar can only be produced in certain parts of the globe, and of course that is a big key element. Do you think that there is points at this stage where we can actually see the financing meeting with the weather patterns as well, or do you think that there's only certain parts of the African continent that are suited to sugar production?
Definitely certain parts are better suited. They are, you talk about droughts, but still Africa, there's countries with rivers that run, all year long. So definitely, if you look at the Angola, Tanzania, DRC, Sudan belt, that is your sweet spot for sugar production. And I think that will stand the test of time. Doesn't matter what weather.
Let's touch on COMESA and the fact that we have seen the trade protection barriers put in place. Is that a hindrance overall to intra-Africa trade when it comes to sugar?
I mean, at the moment we still see very little intra-Africa. It's mostly domestic or into Europe. Whether it's COMESA or not, I'm not 100% sure. I suppose it's where where you can get the best price and where logistics is the best put in place. And at the moment, that would be either domestically or to Europe or the US, and not necessarily intra-Africa.
Let's also touch on sugar price trends, and we've alluded to the fact that we're starting to see price rises, and of course that being a very big issue for a lot of the countries on the African continent because of the inflation picture that is playing out. But if we do see more producers on the African continent, what kind of impact is that going to have on the sugar price?
I mean, obviously, obviously many things drive the sugar price, but the higher the sugar price, the more investors you'll get. Logically, the sugar price still has got a long way to go to get to 5-year highs. So, it's if you look at a 5-year time horizon, it's still at a price where I think the consumer can take sugar, and a higher price leads to more investment.
Let's touch on beneficiation and the opportunities that lie within this space.
Yes, I think local governments has woken up to the fact that they don't just want multinationals, etc., to come and use their land and export products. So the more and more we see people investing and developing in countries, the governments want local content to be used. So certainly, like in Nigeria, they are importing, but we funded the sugar plant. So beneficiation is a big theme in Africa.